Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Kareem from Kareem Martin TV, and this is my part two to my response or reaction to the announcement from USA Taekwondo about the working relationship that USA Taekwondo is developing with the AAU, the Amateur Athletic Union. The Amateur Athletic Union acknowledged itself in the announcement today, and if you want to read the article, it's on www.teamusa.org/USA Taekwondo, and the featured article is AAU Taekwondo and the United States USA Taekwondo Strike Historic Deal. I often say there are certain things that need to be said out loud that hadn't been said out loud, that when they finally get said, it makes things a lot clearer. The reason why I go off on that rant and that tangent is because it has been, for lack of better terms, it has been very disappointing to see some of the things that have been allowed to go on in this modern sport of Taekwondo. I'm just going to say it flatly and plainly. It's been some things that have been very disturbing, very worrisome, and very bothersome in the way that things are conducted and how business is conducted, and overall attitudes when it comes to the sport of Taekwondo, particularly the combat sport of Taekwondo here in the United States. I can say this because as someone who is an active participant in the United States in Taekwondo, there are some things that I have seen and observed that have been very concerning and been very disturbing. One of those things has been this ongoing, how can I say it? This ongoing thing with, how can I put it? And as I was speaking, I was talking about the announcement from the AAU and USA Taekwondo today on Team USA Taekwondo's site, talking about a partnership with them to share information about referees and staff and other people who have been, in my opinion, allowed to keep misinformation and sabotage efforts to, in my opinion, sabotage United States winning gold medals, been just allowed to run rampant and just do whatever they want. I found it disturbing that when you look in the AAU handbook, they said we have the luxury of not following any of the World Taekwondo or World Taekwondo Federation rules. Well, if you're not following any of the World Taekwondo Federation or World Taekwondo rules, how are you preparing athletes to compete on the world stage? How are you claiming that they're doing so good at Olympic trials if they're not being prepared for the Olympic trials? You know, if you're not preparing them for the next level, which is the Olympics or, you know, some type of collegiate or world championship, what are you doing? I asked that question because it really surprised me. It set me aback to look at that article and read that article today, because for the first time, and I'm going to quote the director, the national sport director for the AAU, Mr. Fayel, for the first time in 3 decades, 1 decade is 10 years, 3 is 30 years. First time in 3 decades, AAU is being recognized as a key grassroots program. Remember that word, grassroots. Okay? The AAU, as I said, with the introduction and passing of the Amateur Athletic Act of 1978 here in the United States, established that the United States Olympic Committee was the sole governing body for the Olympics and Olympic training here in the United States. They're the sole ones. There is nobody else. Now, there may be organizations that may help out, but there's nobody else. And trust from someone who has got opportunity to participate in events, bronze medalist, U.S. Nationals 2017, Detroit. I know a lot about this subject I'm going to touch on now, because I've had a journey of my own that I've been talking about in various videos, getting ready for Olympics, praying for Olympics, being a part of the movement. It's sad that so many people had to be hurt and so many lawsuits had to be lost for there finally to be someone to speak up and say, hey, we got to do something. Because unfortunately, and I hate to say it like this, if so many lawsuits hadn't been lost, if so many people hadn't had solid cases, we still probably would have people who would be making false accusations and sabotaging, and yes, I use the word sabotage, the United States' ability to win gold medals in the Olympics. And the sad part about it, you don't have to worry about Russian meddling. It has been actually American citizens upset mainly because they focus more on the business of being in the martial arts business than they were interested in the United States, their country, winning gold medals in the Olympics, especially if they couldn't profit from it. That's one thing I happen to notice. You had a lot of people who, as long as they were in charge, they were running things, they had to say that they were the boss or they were in control, they were fine. And that, in my opinion, is what led to so much abuse. You look at one or two situations where coaches were having sexual relationships with athletes. They were adults, for the most part, consenting adults. But you look at the setup. This coach told them that they could get them into Olympics. They're footing most of the bill. They're raising money for them. And they got them there. And then all of a sudden, or I use the term all of a sudden, because of that, they feel like they can do this or they can do that or they can do the other. And then they went and did it. And that's when you had the individuals talking about the sexual abuse part and having to sleep with them and stuff like that. One thing that glazed over, which is just as disturbing, just as bad, was the amount of physical abuse. Broken bones, torn Achilles, torn hamstrings, dislocated knees, gashes over the eye. The physical abuse is just as bad as the sexual abuse. Excuse me, sorry about that. It's just as bad, and it's not an either or, it's not the greater of two evils. I hope that some of the good to come out of this is that from now on, you make it clear. This is an AAU event. This is an AAU sponsored event. This state championship or nationals with AAU. And understand what the AAU is and what the AAU's overall place in the grand scheme of things is. Because for far too long, this myth of what the AAU was has been detrimental, and it's been totally detrimental come lawsuit time. Because as I said, up until this point, nobody would say out loud some of the things that were going on and tell the truth about your path to the Olympics. There were people who were sabotaging efforts to win gold medals and put qualified athletes, not your favorite, not someone who you wanted to be the face of an organization, qualified athletes that to represent the United States up there. They wanted to pick a favorite. They wanted to have some kid that you know, because they paid so much for tournaments that it was their turn. Nah, it's not your turn. Because the same way you tell me, you know, you're 40 years old. What? Let me remind you something. Stephen Lopez is almost 40. Justin Gatlin is in mid-30s, still one of the fastest men in the United States. Look who helped win the United States a medal on the U.S. polo team. Send the person who help you win the gold medal. Note the fact that golf, you have to be a professional golfer. Tennis, you have to be a professional tennis player. Basketball, you have to be a professional basketball player. There's a reason for this. You can't keep exploiting these kids because they're 17, 19, 20 years old. Youth, as I said before and I'll say it again, is not an asset in combat sport Taekwondo. It's not. Youth is not an asset. You're young, you can take a hit. It's not an asset. It's not going to help you. So once you get past always running to grab the next young person and sticking him up on the national stage, world stage, and understand that if you're trying to send the best and most qualified athlete, you have to send the best and most qualified athlete, period. I am going to say one more time, I'm going to say it again, and there are going to be some people that's going to be upset about me for saying this. There are some people who went and got recertified as Kukkiwan black belts, and that's okay. I get it. But there are a lot of people who aren't and weren't Kukkiwan certified black belts who are under this false impression that they're the same as an athlete who is trained and is certified Kukkiwan, and you're not the same. I've noticed that has been used more so as a way to discriminate against athletes that weren't part of a certain clique than it was to help get athletes properly trained and ready to represent the United States in the Olympics. And yeah, I said that they were cliquish because you realize the Sydney Olympics is 2 years. The Sydney Olympics is 2 years away from being 20 years ago. In that 20 years time, a lot has changed in reference to requirements for qualifying for the Olympics, requirements as an athlete you need to qualify for the Olympics, and training that you need or must have in order to attend qualifying tournaments for the Olympics. You look at what's going on in this modern day with the point system that the World Taekwondo Federation, World Taekwondo has up now, that helps build rank based on the number of tournaments you medal in. Some are finding out that just showing up is not helping you much, because the higher the medal you win, the more points you get. And you can send athletes still. I'm not saying that there isn't still some kind of way if you want to send someone, you can send someone. But let's look at what you go through to qualify your country or particular countries to have a spot in World Championships, World Grand Prix, and Olympics. You now have to win to qualify your country for certain events. And you can say, well, this person won that slot for the United States, say for Pan Am. Okay. A lot can happen between the qualifying tournament and the Pan Am Games. And you have to look at the simple fact of the matter is, if that person gets injured or that person declines in health, who is going to step up to the bat? Because that's still a slot. Now, sometimes when athletes work hard enough and pay the money and train and travel, they win a slot for them particularly. Like, say, for instance, you look at the athletes who qualified for the Olympics in 2016. Based on the point system, the one athlete who actually qualified for the Olympics in 2016 in Rio was Jackie Galloway. That's the 600-pound animal in the room that no one wants to talk about. When it comes to points, when the dust settled, come January 2016, she was officially qualified to represent the United States in the Olympics. Now, because it's the United States, and we still had a Pan Am tournament coming up, you had an opportunity still to qualify the United States as far as a weight class. When it came to general points, you can say Stephen Lopez, two-time Olympic gold medalist, bronze medalist, I can understand you selling him. Paige McPherson, I think it's London Olympics bronze, I can justify sending her. That's why I have to stop. Because if you send those two athletes and then Jackie Galloway, I can understand that. The other weight classes are for grabs. When you have Olympic trials, the people who are participating should be in the Olympic weight category and should have participated in that weight category for at least a year, which the WTF or World Taekwondo rules state. But I want you to pay attention to that now. In that situation, decisions were made and people did what they wanted to, but then always had something negative to say about World Taekwondo, always was raising its machine in World Taekwondo. And then when the person they sent didn't get out of the first round, they got quiet. And they're still trying to push that person. When let's review, there are several other athletes that can and would win gold medals for the United States in all those different categories and all those different weight categories, all different divisions, if you stop playing games and allow everyone, especially those who are really qualified. When I say really qualified, here's my opinion on something. Don't want everybody to listen. Okay, this is my opinion. I know it's mine, but I want you to pay attention to something. Trying to say that a national black belt qualification is the same as a Kukiwan certification. It's the same as saying a medical degree from an accredited college, university in the United States is the same as you say you want to be a doctor and you just walk into a clinic, open up a clinic and say you're a doctor. You can say it, but that doesn't make it true. And in this modern era, we're past the 1800s where, you know, you became a doctor because you knew how to mend a broken bone, or you always helped sick people. If that athlete cannot pass the Kukiwan certification test, but can pass the U.S. national black belt test. You need to understand something. Steps need to be made to try to get that athlete to a level of proficiency where they can pass the Kukkiwon black belt test. The reason why I bring it up, because AAU is rampant with handing out black belts to people that have little to no proficiency in advanced techniques. And I'm going by what I observe. Now that may be my opinion, but if you're asked to demonstrate a technique, you can't do it. It's no more cut and dry than that. If you don't know what that technique is, well, we don't do it in that particular style. Wait a minute. Stop. These are the same people that want to pretend like they all of a sudden have Juris Doctorates from Harvard, Emory, or Columbia University or some crazy like that. But then you turn around and shine a spotlight on them, you find out no, they weren't qualified. No, they weren't Kukkiwon sort of black belts. So no, they might have had a certificate saying this person is taking the steps or past certain proficiencies to test for Kukkiwon, but they don't have Kukkiwon certified black belts that can be verified. Here's some things you need to realize about the Kukkiwon verification system. You look up Kareem Martin, type my name in all caps, United States. My credentials show up. You can stutter, you can say, well, it's a year behind, it's 2 years behind, it's this and another. It may be. There are situations where they are in the queue. There are situations like that. But if that person is in the queue and you're waiting to find out if they pass the test or if they are going to get certified, then that's what's going on. You can't just say, well, they're in the queue and skip them on ahead. Because at the end of the day, for the people who didn't get skipped ahead, who didn't even get a chance or weren't even made aware of when qualifications or anything was going on, and then that price tag that came up with it. When I say price tag, I'm talking about how much it costs to participate in these trials. How much it costs to travel there, how much it costs for lodging, etc. When it says in very plain black and white text, the athlete is responsible for room and board, transportation, and any and all fees associated with this U.S. trials. So now if you go on to a pay-to-play deal, well, it's very simple. Someone who has money behind them, whether they're qualified or not, if they're the only ones that show up, guess who's going to get the slot? So now, if that's what's going on, I realize it's the United States, capitalism, all that good stuff like that. I get that. I understand that. I get that. I understand where you come from that. But on the other side of that, if all you're doing is made it a pay-per-play deal, then here's the bottom line. Raise enough money, pay to be there. Now what? Let's say, for instance, you have 7 people in one weight class that paid the money to get there. All of them feel, I've spent $15,000 of my own money this year to be here. I deserve to be on the U.S. national team. Now what type of situation do you have? And if it's pay-per-play, be honest, but it's not pay-per-play. It was never meant to be pay-per-play because it's under the guise of amateurism, which means that if you're an amateur, you're not going to be making a lot of money, if any at all, in a particular sport you're trying out for on the team. So with that going on, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen now that we've at least have it said the AAU is further down the chain. And what AAU has to realize, AAU is still in competition with a lot of other organizations. ITF in particular in the United States. Amateur Taekwondo Association here in the United States. All of those grassroots organizations that want a shot at their athletes representing the United States on an international, national level and in the Olympics are there too. So let's see what shakes out, because I am very, 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 very interested in understanding what this mutual agreement is going to produce. especially in the immediate, and we have no idea what's going to happen 2024, 2028. The immediate right now is 2020. Don't get me wrong. Preparing for 2028 Los Angeles starts now. I get that. Athletes, coaches, standards, staying up on current standards, qualifications, points, everything. Also, I'm looking at the point system for the United States. Winning of state championships, winning of U.S. Nationals, winning in President's Cup, winning in the U.S. Open, winning in any other type of championship that may win you points. See, that's something I'm also looking at. A state like California, a state like Texas, a state like Florida that has a high population with disposable income that can do things like that. If you're in that state and you're in that particular or close enough to that state, you know, you have a competitive advantage. You have a tremendous competitive advantage. But then you look at a state, say like maybe Iowa, that may not have that many state championships, that can't maybe not have an independent standalone championship outside of the state championship, if they have a state championship at all, which I believe Iowa does have a state championship this year. Are you really sticking to the statement, we're looking for the best athlete? We're pushing for the best athlete. We want the best athlete. We'll see. Because 2020 is going to be interesting, because in 2020, there's a direct shot across the bow from sport karate. After 2020, you have Paris, then you have Los Angeles. And all of the conversations right now are saying very pointedly and very directly, at least in the United States, come 2028, Los Angeles Summer Olympic Games, the United States is going to just be more than showing up to these games. They're going to be highly competitive, and they're going to start winning gold medals again, or they're going to be winning gold medals. So I look forward to seeing what's going to happen. I'm glad that the AAU is recognizing its role, and I'm hoping that now more people are aware of what's going on and know what's going on, because it's a long time coming. It's a long time coming, and there's been a lot of confusion. There's been a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of sabotage. There's been a lot of abuse, physical and sexual and financial. I really and truly hope this moment forward, there's some dramatic improvements and dramatic changes. Because, as I said, you've had 20 years, soon to be 20 years, to get it right. It's time to start getting it right a little bit more often. There are going to be some stumbling, there's going to be mistakes, but it's high time more things were got right. Because the United States, one advantage that the United States has over a lot of other countries, the opportunities to train in Taekwondo are almost limitless. The opportunity to become great is almost limitless. Don't limit that greatness by cheapening being on the U.S. national team. Because you have to understand, no one's crazy, no one's stupid, and people can go to YouTube or the Olympic Channel or NBC Sports and see these athletes in action themselves. They don't have to look any farther than archive footage of the Rio Olympics or other Olympics, and they can see for themselves what happened. And I hope that my own forward sport Taekwondo, at least on the national and state level, gets the boost it needs, and that they understand that USA Taekwondo is a goal Taekwondo athletes should look forward to striving to, just like other athletes look forward to becoming a part of the NCAA. Now you may say at first or after time they're making, here's the bottom line. Look how many NCAA swimmers represented their country in the Olympics. A lot of the top swimmers in the world swam in the United States in the NCAA. They went to college and were college athletes in the United States. You stop and look at the mad dash and scramble for athletes to sign or sign letters of intent to go to college, junior college, and play in and for the NCAA. Until the NCAA adopts Taekwondo as an official scholarship sport, USAT is our NCAA right now. It is our NFL right now. Because it's the gateway we go to get on the national and international stage. Thank you guys for listening. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And thank you for donating. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.